Good morning, babies. It's March 9th. It's early. It's before 7 a.m. I quickly wanted to show you what is it that I do on the morning before the SAT. I woke up about 6 a.m. I took a long, hot shower, contrast shower to be exact, and I used the scrub and many different things that girls do. And when I take the SATs, I often see kids that show up, they have dirty hair. It looks like they haven't been taking showers for a few days, and I think that it has a tremendous impact on your cognitive performance because it's one of those natural pleasures and it makes you feel good about yourself. Another thing that I did this morning is I meditated, and if you haven't seen the meditation video, I'll definitely link this up there, and it really made me feel good. I visualized my whole exam, and I feel calm and peaceful. I feel very prepared. Another thing that helps me feel prepared is laying everything I need to take with me on the couch the night before. And I think it's so important for the brain to feel this serene feeling of preparedness. So let me just show you what I laid out. So the first thing is I want to show you my snack. It's just a simple sugar and I prefer to eat my snack in the break after the non-calculator section because I'm going to be taking the essay, and I just want to eat the snack and have enough energy to carry me through the long math section and then a long essay section. Then water, there's never enough water. I actually talked about this portion in the video, what do you want to take with you to your SAT, and I specifically talked about what's inside of this pouch. So if you haven't watched this video, I'll link this video up there. And I'm going to quickly talk about these. These are my AirPods, and because even though this is not a high stakes test for me, because I've taken it so many times and I'm not applying to colleges anymore, I still feel this feeling of nervousness. Maybe I'm feeling nervous because of so many of my clients are taking the SAT. I try to assuage my own fears, and I just pop my AirPods and I listen to a pleasant tune. If you've seen my IGTV video called Everything is Awful and I'm Not Okay, I talk about listening to your song and the power of that. And you know that my song is Bruno Mars, Versace on the Floor, so I'm going to listen to that today for sure. And another little pro tip that I want to give you, because if you guys are considering taking medication on the morning of your SAT, you don't want to forget it. And if you oversleep and you're nervous, you might forget your medication. So what I do is I put my medication little pouch on top of my clothing. And as you can see, I laid everything out, even my undergarments, everything I'm going to need for tomorrow and for today. So I quickly want to tell you about this thing. You're probably wondering what that is. I wear it on my neck, and this is something that I just smell before the test, during the breaks, because all in all, I find it a little bit messy to open up oils, and this is like a dry perfume. And I have a couple of scents that I like, and I actually use those when I'm studying or preparing or working with my students. So I'm constantly smelling this, so it's actually kind of getting me into the performance mode when I'm smelling these, and I think that could be just like a lucky charm too. So, just a very quick note about clothing. You want to wear something that you feel comfortable in, that doesn't squeeze you in any places, because you're going to be in the seated position. You, God forbid, you don't want to interrupt any of the blood flow. And also, those clothes, they should be adjustable, so if you're feeling hot, you can take something off, and if you're feeling cold, you can add some of the clothing. And I'm just going to show you what I'll wear, and hope that makes sense. Let me get ready, and I'll see you guys from the cab. So we're on our way to the test, and one of the things I personally find very helpful is to manage my own mind as I'm getting to the testing location. So I'm noticing myself getting a little bit nervous, and I just try to take my mind off of that nervousness. I try to vividly imagine how I'm walking into the testing facility, how I'm taking out my ID, giving them the admissions ticket, how they're showing me the room, where my booklet is already there. I take out my pencil, I start bubbling in, I start thinking about like the reading passages, and to just remind myself of the strategy. First read the blurb, then read the questions, then read the passage, try to map it back to the questions, and answer the questions as you go. Always try to answer yourself when possible, and then even close your answer choices, and then whatever matches your own answer, that would be the right one. And also remind myself of elimination strategies. Don't choose the answer that's too extreme, something that's too broad or too narrow. There are very classical traps, and one of those traps is perfect answer except for this one word, or uses words from the passage but says something else, or true in the real world but is not supported by the passage. Another thing that's helpful while you're on the way, maybe if you're taking the essay, maybe think about the template of the essay. Just try to maybe say it out loud to yourself. And if you're someone who actually has flashcards, I don't think it's going to be bad to just go ahead. And if, my ride is very short from my house to the testing facility, but if your ride is long, there's no shame in looking at your flashcards. Again, we've talked about this in the video about should you even study the night before the SAT. I'm a big believer that SAT is preparable, and because this is the test with content on it, you can definitely prepare, and you should absolutely review your flashcards if you have them. And also, don't forget, you actually get to flip through your flashcards as you're sitting in your classroom waiting for the proctor to distribute the testing booklets, because sometimes it takes a long time. I'm actually going to time myself. I have my watch, so I'm actually going to time how long it took from the time we arrived to the testing room to the time the proctor distributed the booklets. Because when the booklets are distributed, you actually can't have anything on your desk. But from that time, sometimes 25 minutes, 35 minutes pass because we're waiting for everyone to arrive. And these are some of the tips I want to give you on the way to the testing facility. Just want to get that calm. And remember, if you have your headphones, just pop in the song that you really like. So we've arrived here around 7:40 a.m. and that's kind of the recommended time for arrival. Every SAT admission ticket says the doors will close at 8. In my experience, as long as you arrive 2 to 3 minutes before 8, you will still comfortably get in. So there's no need to arrive super early. It doesn't give you a bonus and doesn't get you seated anywhere in a preferential place, especially if it's cold outside, because you're actually standing outside. You cannot get in before. Another interesting observation I'm making is that every time I've taken the test at this facility, and I've taken it 2 times here, I think I was taking it in December. And every time I would arrive at 7:45, the line of kids standing back to back would be like all the way to the end of the block. And now, well, you could see a lot of them arriving. But it would be all the way to the end of the block, around 7:45. So I think it's valid to maybe make an observation or an inference, as we say in inference questions on the SAT, that a lot less kids take the SAT in March than in December. I don't think that's news to you guys. So here's what's next. I'm going to keep listening to positive music, keep myself positive, and unfortunately you cannot go in with me. I know you all want to, but I don't think anybody will take a cameraman inside of the SAT testing facility. But what we will do is I'm going to take the test and you will guys meet me here as soon as I come out. Unfortunately, I won't be able to share any of the test questions, but I'll tell you what my feeling was, what my experience was in terms of timing. So I think it would be insightful. So I'll see you guys soon. Bye. Hello, how are you? I'm doing great. Believe it or not, but I actually geek out on these things. I feel great. I feel very invigorated. And I know that a lot of my students are not going to share my feelings with me. And I know that a lot of my students are just thinking, oh, I'm so glad it's over. I'm texting them right now and they're like, I'm so tired. But for me, I'm actually very invigorated. And personally, I think I'm just going to go to my office. I'm going to hop on my computer and I'm going to log into Reddit and I'm just going to sit there and talk to other people who have just taken the test today and talk to them about how they're feeling and how many mistakes they've made. In the back of my mind, I was able to calculate the number of my errors as I was taking the test. I think, if I am not mistaken, I think I made 4 errors total, and 2 were on math. And those were in the non-calculator section math, the last 2 questions. I know I made errors there. And I think there could be 1 error on the reading, and there could be 1 error on the writing. So these 2 I am not so confident about. So depending on how they curved this test, today we're going to make a video about the curve. So it will come out whenever our publishing schedule is, because the test is already standardized. So whoever has taken the test today, it doesn't matter. Because I used to think that the curve actually depends on the people that are taking the test today, but it doesn't. Like, the test has been standardized prior to them giving us the test. And the annoying thing for me is the experimental section. That was actually one of the hardest sections. If you guys don't know what an experimental section is, it's you take your reading, you take your writing, you take the non-calculator math, you take the calculator math, and then you're exhausted. And then the last thing you want to do is work for the SAT for free for 20 minutes, solve an experimental section for them. They're giving you, I, for example, had a reading section, and what you do is you try to do your best on 16 questions. So they were so difficult. I don't know what generation of kids are going to get these questions, but I made sure I answered wrong on all of them, just because I think that those are just above the pay grade of the SAT. I don't know what they're testing them for. And then after the experimental section, I took the essay. The essay was great. I think it was a very well-structured argument. It was very straightforward. It was very contemporary, actually, and very timely. So I was able to identify the rhetorical devices. I'm actually proud of my essay. Maybe once in my lifetime I'll get an 888. I've never gotten an 888 yet. So I'm very hopeful. So I don't know how about you guys, but I am excited. And of course. And as I was solving the problems today, at the back of my mind, I was thinking, do my kids know this? Do my kids know this? Do my kids know this? And for all the problems, I was actually answering yes for most of the problems. For like 99% of the problems, I was answering yes, because we did a thorough review. With some of you I saw on Thursday, with some of you I saw on Friday. All of those tricks, they were either on your flashcards, in your Aerolog, or they were in my Instagram. One of the problems actually that is in my Instagram, a very similar one showed up on the SAT, so I felt it. I forgot one more thing. There was something that the proctor did very well. So she had a huge digital clock. She just put it on the desktop of her computer, and it was in the front of the room. So at any given point in time, you could see what time it was, and she really did a good job at announcing time, how much time is left. She really followed the protocol. So I really enjoyed that, and I think that was very helpful for other kids to also keep track of timing and how much time is left. And another thing that I promised to tell you guys is how much time have passed between me entering the testing room and me sitting in front of the booklet. So I think I recorded that I walked into the building at 8:06, you know, they have to check your ID and they tell you which room you're going to go in. And then they told me which room. And then at 8:06, I entered the room. And at 8:36, the proctor distributed the booklets. If you know your math, and I know you do as you're watching this video, I had 30 minutes of just sitting there. My seat was assigned, which is probably something new. Every time I've taken the SAT in the past, I was just allowed to sit anywhere I wanted. But here, it was actually with a post-it note on the table. And from the time I entered to the time there's nothing to do. You're not allowed to have your phone. I don't think so. And you're not just going to sit there, Google things. So I just find it very helpful to just take out my flashcards and just flip through them. Obviously, I knew the contents of my flashcards, but it just kept me occupied. It kept me, if I don't know the answer, I'm confident in my ability to figure it out. So just a quick note. So one more thing I just thought about. I think that the difference between the way I feel right now and the way my clients feel is nerves. I go in there, I'm not nervous for the most part. I'm nervous about my kids. I want them to do really well, but I'm not nervous about my own performance as much because my college no longer depends on this. But the way they're exhausted, like they just, you know, they're telling me that they're binge watching a stupid show, that today they're going to eat like a carton of ice cream. These are the things that you usually do when you go through something very, very difficult and usually very emotionally intense. And the reason I'm different, I'm fairly certain, is because I manage my mind, I manage my anxiety, I meditate, and it's not as much of a high-stakes situation for me as it is for these kids. And plus, I'm 30 and they're 15. They're like half my age, or 16. So I think that that's just a big component of it. That's why I feel so good and excited, and I feel good about my performance. And I just want to geek out more on the SAT, and they're just like done. So just something I thought about. So when we first came up with this idea of shooting a quick video talking about what is it that I do the night before the SAT, what is it that I take with me, what is it that I do on the morning of, and now it's turning into this fabulous vlog, as we think it's going to be fabulous. And I know I've talked to you about everything before. Should you study? Shouldn't you study the night before? Should you bring a calculator? Should you bring your ID or admissions ticket? And I also talked to you about the meditation, and I now want to talk to you about something that you want to do after. So I've taken the test. Now I'm actually walking over to my office, and an idea came to my head. I think that right now is the most important and most potent time for you guys to reflect and review what you've done. You know how athletes, when they perform, they oftentimes watch their own performance. They watch video recordings of their own performance, and they analyze and they overanalyze. I've worked with some basketball players in my life, and I know for a fact that they look at the recordings of their games, and they look to their performance to teach them, to tell them what to work on and how to improve. I think that the best time to think about what you can improve is today, because your mind is very fresh. You're still very aware of the feel of the test, and I want you to the best of your ability, analyze all the mistakes that you've made. Did you guys run out of time? When did you run out of time? What section was it? If you forgot some of the rules, what rules were those rules? Was it proportion? Was it probability? Did you struggle with the last two questions on the non-calculator math section like I did? And this is all for you information. I want you to think of yourself as an SAT athlete. And anytime you're taking a practice test, anytime you're taking a real test, this is your performance. And if you're someone who wants to get to a really high level of their performance, you gotta analyze it and maybe even overanalyze your own performance.
So if you have it in you and if you're really excited and determined to do that, I'm inviting you to very carefully analyze and reflect back on how well you did today. What made you run out of time if you ran out of time? What made you change your answer? Why did you hesitate? And that would bring you to a higher score, and that would bring you to a higher performance. And I think that a lot of you are just saying, oh, I'm so tired. Oh, I'm so exhausted. Oh, I can't take it. And part of it is true, and we just talked about it in the car, that you might be tired and exhausted because of how emotionally damaging this whole test situation is, how terrified you were and how much pressure you're putting on yourself. So that is very tiring. But at the same time, it's just like a regular school day. You came out, now school is over, and usually you guys do a lot of homework, you do a lot of other stuff after the test. So just consider that I'm right, and imagine that you weren't tired right now. If you were to go home, sit down at a table and just write down all the places that you can just improve. Maybe I'm right. Who knows? So this is my suggestion for you, and obviously this is not for everyone, and it's fine. This channel is not for everybody. And if you just wanted to take your score to another level, just answer a couple of questions just for yourself. How did you do in the reading section? Was there any particular passage that gave you trouble? Was there any particular type of question that was difficult? Did you see some of the math questions that were challenging for you? What were those rules? Mine was the cubic equation, which I forgot the graph of, and therefore I couldn't solve it. This is immediate information for me. This is feedback. This is something that I need to be working on. So just consider, if you didn't have to say to yourself, oh, I'm so tired, I'm exhausted, I can't do this, I have to binge watch, I don't even know what you guys binge watch, Orange is the New Black tonight because I need to zone out. No, you don't have to. What if you didn't have to say this to yourself? So I hope that helps you, and I think we should be done.
All right, so we just landed in the office, and the first website I'm going to go to is Reddit, and as you can see, for today's test, the US discussion, there is already 2.1 thousand comments. So I'm gladly going to go in and look at some stuff, and obviously kids are not allowed to disclose answers, but does anyone remember the answer to the last question on writing, number 44? The passage was about zookeepers, but I always have a hard time with action-verb agreement. I believe I forgot the exact question though. Makes? Yes, it was make versus makes. The answer was make. Yes, that was accurate. Good. So we kind of do share, but we're not sharing the exact questions. So see, then someone else is going to share the rule of subject and verb agreement. So you guys, you have to leave me to my devices. I'm going to spend some time reading here and maybe commenting, leaving some feedback. This is my favorite part. And I'm also starting to get some messages from my students, and I'm anticipating some phone calls from them because some of them have extra time. So if you're taking 4 sections with extra time and then you're taking the essay with extra time, those kidders are going to be done around 6 p.m. So by the time they're done, I'm going to have a phone call with them. We'll go through the SAT athlete checklist, so how they maybe can improve next time they're taking the essay. I think by now we are complete with our SAT blog, and I hope you liked it. Let me know when you're taking the SAT, what else you want me to include in the SAT, and I think going forward I'm just going to be making a lot more tutorials because it seems like you guys really loved the SAT essay video. So I will just be making more very targeted specific practices. I'm about to do a reading walkthrough. Well, I'll show you how I go through reading passages, how I tackle question one at a time, and we'll go from there. Bye.